Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on what side of the pond you're on, and welcome to Across the Pitch. We have another special Team of the Month episode for Greenville Triumph. My name is Phil Kennedy, and I'm joined by Ross Davenport and Tony Robinson here today. We have an extra special guest on the show, who's the man that you see in between the pipes, to use a hockey term there for Greenville. Those of us here in Phoenix or Arizona in general may also be familiar with this guy because he spent some time in net, especially down in Tucson. And then he also has represented Guam internationally. So we just have a ton of stuff to talk about today, and we're really excited to welcome Dallas Jaye to the show. Welcome to the show, Dallas. Great to have you on.
I appreciate you guys having me. Looking forward to talking shop.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ross, you are the color commentator for Greenville, so I know you have the pleasure of watching Dallas play quite a bit. So why don't you start off with some of your questions that you have about Greenville?
Sure, Dallas. Good to talk to you one-on-one. It's been obviously first time doing that. Talk about you. Obviously, you started your career well. You spent some of your time with John Harkes in Cincinnati. In his 1 year stint there that didn't end in particularly fun fashion. But let's talk about the differences between John then and John now.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to be part of that inaugural group for FC Cincinnati when they were a USL team in 2016. Rookie year coming out of Xavier University, which was right there in Cincinnati, so benefited from being somewhat local. And John giving me my first professional contract was a special moment, and it was an incredible experience, incredible team to be a part of. Kind of seeing what Cincinnati has become, moving up to MLS. It was a great project, and I think John as what was a first year head coach at the professional level that year in Cincinnati. His reputation precedes him, as we all know from his playing days. But as a coach, it was my first professional experience. So I can't speak too much about what I knew then, but I enjoyed everything John brought to the game as far as relating his own experiences to us as players. That was something he was big on from day one in Cincinnati. And, you look to him now as the head coach in his third professional year as a head coach with us in Greenville, Greenville's second year. And he's only grown as far as the managing side of things. I think he's always been a fantastic manager of the players and the personalities that are in the locker room. And that's a big piece of it. And he also does a great job with recruiting his assistant coaches. We had Ryan Martin in Cincinnati, who's now the head coach of Loudoun United, and then Alex Blackburn as our head assistant and goalkeeper coach here in Greenville, which John, he grooms these guys. He helps them grow as coaches. And that's been one of the cool things to see Ryan's success and to see Alex progress from the coach that he was last year to this year, where he's, as important as anybody in our organization for everything he puts into building us up week by week. I mean, just this week preparing for Fort Lauderdale on the weekend, Alex he puts in the hours, and that's a credit to John and the guidance that he gives.
Now, before we talk more about your professional career, let's kind of jump back a little bit. And looking at your college career here, I know that you spent some time for South Florida, but one thing that really caught my eye was in 2015, you moved over to Xavier. And I've actually been to an Xavier basketball game once. I know it's Xavier. That's what it's there, right? So, but you
got it.
I didn't know one episode.
I was what year with the NCAA March Madness tournament came here. I was a Sweet 16, and there I got the kind of 3-game pass. And actually, 2 of the games I went to were Xavier. The first one was against West Virginia, and then I think they played I want to say UCLA and the one after that. But I somehow my tickets ended up where I was right in the Xavier booster section. So I definitely heard that chant plenty of times. And but the thing that really caught my eye was that you were named the Big East Goalkeeper of the Year that year. So you had a quite a season there with Xavier.
Yeah, the opportunity at Xavier was one that, for me, was really that pivotal moment in my career. I was at University of South Florida for 4 years, 4 seasons, took a red shirt as a freshman. But during those 4 years, I was the starting goalkeeper for maybe half a season. I think I maybe started 10 to 15 games over the course of 4 seasons. So I enjoyed every bit of my experience in South Florida. Loved being there, graduate of there, proud alumni. But, I knew I wanted to play professionally. And going into my 5th year, I wasn't slated to be the starter at USF. So I knew a move was in order. I graduated. It was a good time for me to move on. So Xavier popped up on the radar actually from a former teammate at South Florida who transferred as well to Xavier during his time. He was actually a goalkeeper as well. So kind of followed his direct path and went to Xavier for my 5th year, and was fortunate enough to be surrounded by a very good team, very good coaching staff that, led, I think we were in top 10 in goals against average and a lot of defensive statistics, which obviously the goalkeeper puts you on some radars when it comes to the professional game. Didn't have as much success as we may have liked to. We ended our season in the Big East semifinal that year, but the decision I've always looked back on as pivotal. It's a catalyst for me continuing to play after college.
That's a big thing that we hear with a lot of players that we talk to, is that, maybe you end up in 1 or 2 places and just don't quite get the playing time. And then you find that one place where you fit in, and that's kind of where your career takes off from. And for you, it sounds like that was at Xavier.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And to be fair, the experience at USF, I'm getting to play with guys while I was there, like, Dom Dwyer, Ben Sweat, Wesley Sharpie, a lot of these guys who have moved on to play in MLS and across the USL. So that mentality that was ingrained in me there, to being around guys who were future pros, they acted like pros in college. So that was a big learning experience for me, and I was able to take that to Xavier and kind of put everything together at that point.
This interests me because as an individual who's brought up on and grown up on English football and their systems over there, when we look at the football system in the States, with the university system and then into the lower leagues, it's quite different and unique. So as far as I say, compared to England, that university is really the big stepping stone, isn't it, Dallas, to get into a professional career? That's the sort of the minor league system, I guess, would be a way to put it.
I would say so, yeah. I mean, it is an imperfect system, and it is a evolving system. You see a lot more players now foregoing college for the homegrown route, the USL route, which I think is a great thing. But as of now, and I think for the near future, college is a great mechanism for players to not only, get seen to possibly play professionally, but you get your education, you get your degree. And as you may know, a lot of guys in England, it's one or the other. And some players may find themselves at 18, 19, 20, falling out of the professional game and kind of wondering what to do. So I like the idea that players have some flexibility and that ability to go a couple different routes, college being a big piece.
Just to put it in perspective, what age would you be when you're coming out of your 5th year at Xavier?
For my 5th year, I was 20, I believe I turned 22 while I was there. So a lot of those guys, you're finishing your college career at 21, 22, 23, and starting your professional career at that age, which is obviously, as you know, unique to the U.S. It's usually a lot earlier in other countries.
Do you think with this the setup now and more teams being established in the USL League One and League Two, Do you think that's going to be a better option for maybe players to go pro, semi-pro at an earlier age?
I do. I think you're seeing it now. I mean, just last evening, one of the players for Fort Lauderdale, 15 years old, scoring his first professional goal, the youngest in the USL era, which was a cool stat to see yesterday. But I think I don't want to use the phrase a better option, but I like that it is another option, and I think it will evolve as it goes. It may turn into that better option, but I like that players have different routes. And then, you're talking to a guy who my route to the professional game, I would consider pretty atypical, but there is no generic traditional route, which is what's unique. And I think is a cool thing here.
One of the things that, certainly caught my eye as an Arizonan and a Phoenix Rising supporter is that after college, the first place you ended up was with FC Tucson. And I know at that time would have been when Rick Schantz was down there. So how did you get to Tucson, and what was it like working with Coach Schantz down there?
Yeah, the Tucson connection comes from a former goalkeeper coach I had, Eric Yamamoto, Santa Clara University guy who knew Rick and knew John Perlman. I believe him and Rick actually played together. I played against each other back when Rick was a Portland Pilot and Yama was a Santa Clara Bronco back in the day. But Eric had put me in touch with them. It became my home for the summers. I went there for 3 straight summers when I came home from college to play PDL. It was a great way for me to get back on the West Coast after being in Florida for the school year. So I always enjoyed that part. But playing for Coach Schantz was, it was an experience that brought me back 3 years in a row. I didn't, there's always a lot of options in PDL, now USL League 2. Always a lot of options for guys, and guys usually bounce around during the summers, but it was the place I wanted to be. Created a great relationship with Rick, with John Perlman, a lot of the other staff that went through there. To this day, I hear from those guys on birthdays and, wish well after games and things like that. Rick was the connection for Phoenix when I was leaving Cincinnati, was the big reason that I was able to make the move there. And to see him, go from PDL head coach to USL assistant coach to now USL head coach of what I consider probably the most lethal team in USL.
That's what I like to hear.
Because he is very deserving of that, and he's done the hard yards and earned every bit of that head coach role. Because I was there when, he was the assistant and then interim and then finally given the full reins, and he's done incredibly with it.
Yeah, he was part of founding that Tucson organization. And like you said, he's just really kind of become the face of the sport in Arizona over the years, if you will. And one thing that you mentioned is, of course, in 2018, you came to Phoenix Rising and it backed up Carl Wazinski. And that was, of course, the year that Phoenix went all the way to the championship run. That was also when Didier Drogba was still playing here. So, with Waz entrenched there, it was kind of hard to find playing time. But what was it like to kind of experience that success of a team that was having such a successful season? And also, what was it like being around a guy like Didier Drogba?
It was that year, that 1 year for me in Phoenix in 2018 was invaluable. Didn't play a single minute, but learned so much in just a single season. And then I credit a lot of, the recent success I've had with Greenville and my experiences to that year. You're around a championship team, that culture, that attitude that was day in and day out. When you're around that energy that Didier brought, he's won pretty much everything you can win. He instilled that in the guys around him, but at the same time, in the locker room, he was just another one of the guys, which was a very cool thing. And you put that together with the experience for me, the goalkeeping group we had. You had Carl Wazinski, obviously retired now, but you had Zach Lubin, who's been the out and out starter at Phoenix since and is doing incredible. You got John Berner, who a few unlucky injuries, but has bounced back and that is now with St. Louis and getting some games there. So you got these 4 goalkeepers week in and week out that were just pushing each other, and a lot of success on the field came from good goalkeeping. And it wasn't, Waz was always the first to give credit to the group that we trained with every day. And that was always a cool thing. So I learned a lot from those guys and always enjoyed working with them. We actually still have a group chat, the 4 of us keepers, giving Zach Lubin a hard time yesterday on his birthday for giving up a goal in LA. But, those relationships and stuff like that, they're one of the invaluable parts of this game.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And like you said, I mean, goalkeeper has just been such a strong position here in Phoenix. We've been really lucky to have Waz and Lubin. And it had to be great to, like you said, learn from top experienced guys like that, because, Waz was a veteran by the time he came in. So I'm sure that he had a lot of knowledge to pass down to you. Before we move on from the Phoenix side of things, one other guy I wanted to just ask you about real quick was Solomon Asante. I mean, that was his first season with Phoenix. When he came in, did you just immediately see, wow, this guy is just some kind of player? Did you know he was going to be an MVP?
I'll be honest, the first day you see him, he's a pretty unassuming guy. He's quiet. He's got the small stature that he has, but we actually did a couple training sessions before the formal preseason started that year. So just, the guys getting together to play pickup really. And I remember he chipped me from about 5 yards away, which I didn't know was possible. Usually when you're getting dinked, it's from a little bit more of a distance. And the fact that he got it up and down in the way he did, I was blown away. And I knew from that second that he was a different type of player. And I mean, you see it now with his statistics, with his awards, his accolades. But he is a team first guy. And that's the cool part about him. And the reason he wears the armband for that club now is he loves scoring goals, but he's just as happy putting other guys in spots to score goals. And he just wants to win. The guy's a winner and that's all he wants. So he pushes the guys around him to be the same way.
Absolutely. It's a joy to watch him play for sure.
Can I just want to jump in and ask a question that always interests me when I look at a player's career and I see some, an individual that's represented a country, and in your case, you've represented the Guam National Team. And what intrigued me was you played for them, I believe, in 2012 while you were still at university. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah.
And another thing that sort of, for a small team like Guam, obviously they've got to go afield to get their players in some cases. How do you qualify for them?
So the connection with Guam, obviously Guam being a U.S. territory, there's no passport issues. Okay. All U.S. citizens, all U.S. passports, but FIFA rules through lineage require, I believe it's up to the grandparents. In my mom's side of the family, my grandmother and grandfather are born, raised on Guam, lived there. My mom's one of 6. The 4 older siblings were all born on the island. She and her younger brother were born on the mainland. But got connected with them actually at Surf Cup when I was 15 years old. They had sent a team to play in that tournament. My mom had seen them on the schedule, instantly wanted to go over and watch the game. And it's such a small island, such a small community. Just talking to some families on the sideline, we were able to, meet cousins and all sorts of things. So that was the start of it. Got invited to play with their under 19s after we met them at Surf Cup. This would have been in 2008 or 2009. I believe I was 16, played with their under 19 side. And then was fortunate enough to make my first team debut in 2012, just shy of turning 19 years old, and have remained a part of the pool since. And it's been some of the coolest experience. And you guys are kind of rattling off my resume today, which is pretty flattering. But Didier Drogba, USL Championship game, stuff like that. But the Guam thing has been one of the coolest things in my career.
Were you part of the program or in the team when they actually, I guess they reached the highest ranking back in September 2015 after a couple wins over India and Turkmenistan, I believe. So to get up to 146, were you part of that as well?
I was, yeah, I was. So that was our World Cup qualifying campaign for the 2018 World Cup in Russia. We were first time going through the actual qualifiers, getting to that stage. We were in a group of four other countries, I should say. There were 5 total. India, Turkmenistan, Oman, and the big boys, Iran, who actually ended up qualifying for the World Cup. But yeah, we were able to take victories from Turkmenistan and India, a tie to Oman, and that was an incredible time for the national team program. A lot of experienced guys on that team, a lot of experienced pros that have since filtered out, moved on to retirements and things like that. So we have a much younger crop coming through now. So it's been a transition period, but with Guam, it's always going to be difficult. The player pool is small. We're the minnows of Asia and the Asian Football Confederation in a lot of ways, but we've been able to do some cool things in the last 8 years I've been a part of it, and hopefully, in the years to come. That's
an excellent story. Excellent.
So Dallas, now obviously you had some frustrating times in college, not getting the starts you really wanted. And then at Cincinnati and Phoenix, obviously the same thing. So when John Harkes came calling, where were you at that point in your Phoenix career? And did he give you any promises about starting at that point? Obviously, you're getting to the age of 25, 26 then, and obviously wanting to get some starting action. And talk about where you were when John called.
Absolutely, yeah. Finishing the season of Phoenix, the whole experience. We made the final, lost the final, but I knew for me going into 2019, it was going to be a pretty pivotal year. You're going into your 4th year as a pro, but you don't have the minutes or the meaningful games that you hope for progress, but also for development. It's an important time in any player's career, so you need to be getting games. And that was actually during the time when FC Tucson was also making the move to League One under the Phoenix umbrella. So initial conversations with Phoenix coming out of that year, where the potential to maybe be a part of the Rising roster still, or be a part of the Tucson roster and come up for preseason with Phoenix. A lot of different ideas that were thrown around, which I was fortunate and grateful for, because that means they did see something in me at Phoenix that they wanted me to stick around in some capacity, which I was always appreciative of. But conversations with John happened that off season too, and it was for me, it felt like the right move to go to a new club where no established starters. You can help build something from the ground up, which I got to experience in a way at Cincinnati. But John he's a coach that knows the game, and he knows he's not going to go offering or promising guys starting roles and things like that. He knows everything has to be earned, and he made that clear. But everything he was telling me about the project in Greenville and everything he wanted to build aligned with what I was looking for what, as I said, was going to be what I saw as a pivotal year for me. So it worked out for the better. And I look back on that decision, that off season, don't have a regret. Always miss the Phoenix and the Tucson gang, though. I always enjoyed being down in Arizona, but as players, we got to move on and do what we feel is best at times. And that for me was the thing.
And obviously, what a great first season in Greenville, reaching the championship game. Obviously, for the second straight year, the same with Phoenix, and obviously losing in that championship game there. But talk about, John loves to build things from the back, and built a solid back four in front of you, which obviously helped you in the goals against battle. But yeah, talk about last season and the progress this team has made coming into this year.
Yeah, last season's team was a fun group to be a part of, and it was a group that we realized early on in the season, or even in preseason, that we were all very similar guys with similar stories. Guys who had been or at least for the existing pros, guys who had been at clubs where we were squad players, depth players, all felt we were very capable, but just didn't really get our opportunities. And, I think we all had that similar chip on our shoulder, and that was the kind of group that was the core of the team. And I think that was a big piece for us. And then you put that together with John's tactics, John's guidance, and all the resources that the club itself gave us. And you kind of have this perfect formula for a team that, was going to have some success. And no one really knew what League One was going to be about. No one really knew how it was going to look, how high the level would be. But I think by the end of the year, just that final itself, you can watch that final and say, this is a league with a high standard, with very good players, players that are very capable of, moving up a few divisions here and there. So to be a part of the start of it all and see it grow into this season now, where, obviously we're off to a very good start. 4 wins from the first 5, 4 clean sheets from the first 5. We're kind of picking up where we left off, and that's a huge credit to John's recruitment in the off season. The group he's brought together is, it's a fight week in and week out for the 11 to the 18, and that's exactly what you want. There's no safe positions. Everything's got to be earned, and John is. If we weren't set up for success enough going into the year, we definitely are now.
Yeah, made some key off-season pickups to obviously help on the depth, and in the back line last year, you guys had a couple of tweaks here and there, but mostly consistent with the same 4 or 5 guys. This year has been a little bit different. Now, as a goalkeeper, I know the answer to this a little bit, but I want to kind of get your thoughts on it. But how hard is it having such a change in the back 4? You were so used to especially at center back, most of the same guys last year, and then going into the Madison game this year, you went up there and things looked a lot different. Obviously, you worked with everybody in preseason, but talk about as a goalkeeper having to deal with changes at the back, and obviously you're practicing with the guys, but the communication has to be key. So yeah, just talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely, because as the goalkeeper, it's very much, as far as the back line goes, it's a leadership position. I'm the one who's able to see what's going on in front of me, and you lose pieces like a Kevin Pullitz to Hartford and a Cole Siley to retirement. 2 very big pieces on our team last year in the back. You wonder, we were known for our defensive abilities last year. What's this year going to look like? And you add in guys like Brandon Fricky and Abdi Mohammed and Cesar Murillo and Harry Hawkins. It's almost become an embarrassment of riches now, which is fantastic. And we've had changes this year amongst the back line for different reasons, and I think it's shown that it's a next man up mentality. We got guys who can play multiple spots across the back line, which is a huge key. And you talk about a 16-game, 15-week season. Feels a bit like college, where it's a marathon, and little injuries, things like that can keep guys out for multiple games in chunks of the season. So you have to have that depth and that ability to rotate guys, which we have now more than we did last year, which is great. And we've seen it already 5 games in. That's the best part.
Now, you guys, I'm going deep here. In the last game against Chattanooga, surprisingly, well, John did tell us he was going to tweak things up a little bit, but you came out with 3 at the back. Something I've never faced as a goalkeeper in front of me. Does that make any difference to you, having 3 versus 4? Did it require a bit of a tweak on your end as well?
Yeah, I think the big thing for us is obviously with a formation change or any formation in itself, it's starting spots, it's ideas, but the game is fluid and there's going to be movement. And we talked about that a lot going into the Chattanooga game. So for me, it's the ability to adjust to what the game is asking for. And when you have 3 at the back, I've experienced a little bit in different places, namely Guam. Actually, we've played with a 3-5-2 formation on a number of occasions, where you have that center back, that central center back right in front of you. So essentially, you're not actually getting on the ball as much. You're not that pivot between the 2 center backs. There's someone kind of doing that job. So it's okay. How can I pop into the spaces that he's leaving to almost turn us into a back 4 again? Obviously, can be a little deeper, gotcha. But I essentially become that center back in a way when we're building. So that was a bit of a adjustment. And I think that first half against Chattanooga, we didn't fully understand it. They definitely made it a bit difficult. They had a pretty organized press, so that put us up against it. But you make adjustments as the game goes on, and we were able to do that and settled ourselves down a bit in the second half. Had big Lachlan McLean step up and bag one, and take a nice 1-0 victory at home, where it was a game and a performance where I don't think we were fully pleased with what we brought on the day, but I think that's the sign of a good team is, you can pull off a draw or a win on your down days.
Well, we had Lachlan on last week and he scored, so I obviously expect nothing less from you this Saturday against Fort Lauderdale.
Clean sheet coming up this weekend. I mean, we've had some pretty good luck. I know that Podge Mon came on the show and they scored against Man City the next day, and then Darnell King, who's going to be coming on next week. I actually had a phone call with him last Friday, and then he scored on Saturday. So I mean, we've got a good luck streak going. So
I like to hear that. It sounds like the opposite of the Madden cover for football. So that's a good thing.
You mentioned that, and that brings a trivia question that I always get people with. So I'm going to throw this trivia question. This is one of my favorite trivia questions. Who was on the first ever Madden cover? Wow. Any guesses?
Can I phone a friend for what year that cover would have been, and maybe I can.
I think it would have been about 91 or so. Maybe sometime very early 90s, I would say.
Well, I'll put it this way: I'm a 93, so it's it might be a little bit before my time. I'm also a lifetime, up until this year, unfortunately, Raider season ticket holder. My family has had tickets in Oakland for the Raiders for my entire life. Unfortunately, not following to Vegas, but
that's.
I'm trying to think. Early 90s football. That's tough for me.
Ross, Tony, you got any guesses?
I'm going to say Emmitt Smith. Go ahead, Tony.
Babe Ruth.
Decent shout.
you guys are going to love this, and this is why this is my favorite question. And you guys are going to be so.
I know the answer.
You didn't get it right. John Madden.
Yep. I can see him on the cover now with his headset on. Yep.
Honestly, that would make the most sense.
That's a good one that you can always win a pint at the pub with. So.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm going to put that one in the back pocket.
Excellent.
I got a couple more before we let Dallas go. Just a couple of silly ones. Dallas, obviously in Cincinnati. The Jay says Naye thing got going, and then it kind of died away in Phoenix, obviously because you weren't seeing much of the field. But I was trying to bring it back, although my producer has to keep me reined in and tells me I'm not allowed to use it at the moment. But how did you find out about that in the first place? Do you like it, and do any of the other players? You make a big save on the day. Does Evan Lee turn around and say that? I doubt he does, but I have to ask.
They, funny enough, yeah. The first time I heard that, I was playing an Open Cup game. It was my first appearance in Cincinnati, and made a save at one point in the first half, and kind of heard it was right in front of the Bailey, and kind of heard something going on behind me. You're kind of you're locked into the game, but that was a surreal moment to have fans chanting your name like that.
Right.
But yeah, it stayed around in Cincinnati. You had the Mitch says no, you had the Jay says nay, so that was always cool.
What if we threw the kind of Burnley thing in there and had a Jay nay never?
No. Yeah, it's similar to the no nay never at Burnley.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's cool. Here in Greenville, the always crazy Reedy River Riot have adjusted the lyrics to Sweet Caroline into a save song, which has been pretty cool. My family gets a real kick out of that every time they hear it. But I always enjoyed it. I thought it was a cool play on words and a cool little homage to making a save. And I'm kind of bummed to hear you can't say it on air. That is unfortunate.
Well, I'm going to ignore my producer on Saturday if you make a blind save, and I promise I'll say it on Saturday if the occasion befits it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Throw in the J, Naye, never, and be, oh, you didn't say I couldn't say that.
There you go. And my final question is, who has the third best hair on the team behind you and Evan Lee? Now, I don't know if you've seen pictures of Evan Lee. I honestly tried to get my producer this Saturday to do a sort of pictorial of Evan Lee's hair over the years. I haven't had that cleared yet. I'm hoping to get it before the end of the season. But who has the third best hair behind you and Evan Lee?
That's a good question. Evan, obviously going from the Thor man bun of the last 2 years.
Yes.
He's gone short and sharp now. I actually have to have him talk to me from time to time because I'm very much in the awkward stage with my hair at the moment. Hence the headband every game. But if I had to say third best, that's a great question. We actually our entire team goes to the same barber. And it seems like we all come out with a very similar haircut right now. You know, the short back and sides, the quintessential soccer player look. But I'm going to have to go with Carlos Gomez on the day because he puts more gel in it than anyone else on our team. And the phrase we use for his hair is fast. We tell him he's got fast hair because he looks like he's just been hair blowing, slicked down. He's got it all going on.
You know, instead of the headband, and this actually might be perfect in sunny Greenville, last season I had seen I think it was Dean Henderson from Sheffield United had a baseball cap to keep the sun out of his eyes. And I was trying to start a trend where I think goalkeepers should wear baseball caps. So maybe instead of the headband, you bust out the baseball cap one week.
I will tell you this, the baseball hat idea has been thrown around simply because at Legacy Early College at our home field, if you don't have some clouds in the first half, there is a very serious sun in your eyes situation on one of the sides. I'm not going to say which, in case any of the future opponents are listening, but we do our best to stay away from it. But there has been the idea of possibly using it if it is needed to deal with first half sun. So another one I'll keep in the back pocket because I'll possibly pull that out if needed.
If you pull that out, definitely let us know because we'll make a big deal about it. Tony, you had one last question before we wrap up, right?
Yeah, I'm always interested when you talk to a position player like a goalkeeper. Who was your hero or who growing up as far as a keeper or somebody that you've tried to model yourself after?
I think I have a couple answers for that question. I think obviously as a young goalkeeper here in the U.S., the guy I always looked up to and admired was Tim Howard. And I benefited from actually getting to work with Tim Mulqueen, the goalkeeper coach who really developed Tim Howard and the guy that Tim Howard gives all his credit to for his career is Mulch. And when I was at IMG Academy for my freshman and sophomore year of high school, Mulch lived down in that area and kind of took a liking to me. We created a great relationship. I would train with him, do private trainings on the side, and he was the connection that got me to the University of South Florida. Didn't have really many Florida connections, but obviously he was a Florida guy at the time, and he was the reason I got there. So that whole kind of storyline behind it was the reason Tim Howard was always the one I wanted to watch. The reason I'm actually an Everton supporter to this day. Always just wanted to watch Tim when I was growing up, so found myself watching him week in and week out when I could. But as far as emulating styles, I actually really enjoyed watching John Bush play and Nick Raimondo when they were really, in their primes in MLS, mainly because growing up, I was on the smaller side of things, just touching 6 foot today. So still consider myself on the smaller side of things as a goalkeeper, but I always got to enjoy watching the quote unquote smaller guys get the job done. That was always really cool. So I like to emulate things that they were doing.
Great stuff. Yeah. Yep. I think that, Tim Howard, he's just that guy that kind of was the face of U.S. soccer along with Landon Donovan for a decade there. And I know it's been a rough few years here for Everton, so hopefully things will pick up for them, and you can have some big competitive Merseyside derbies and stuff like that coming up again. Because the Toffees are always a team that I think everybody's kind of got a soft spot for.
Well, the only thing I can jump in and say on that one is that this year Burnley actually finished above Everton, and that doesn't happen too often. So I'm a happy camper for that reason.
No, it does not. You'll have to have a conversation with our goalkeeper coach, Alex Blackburn, because he is Burnley till he dies. And we hear about it every week that they do well, and we hear the complaining every week they don't. So he loves talking shop when it comes to them.
Well, Burnley is one of the teams that we cover here on the show. So Tony, it sounds like we'll need to make an appointment to have a conversation with him.
Yeah, and I think he might be interested in the episode that you're going to be putting out in the next day or so, Phil. We interviewed a gentleman that's written over 20 books.
Dave Thomas
on Burnley. So I'm sure when that comes out, he'll be interested in giving that a listen, because there's some great stories in there from.
I'm actually hoping to have that out tonight.
Yeah, that's great stuff. Oh, that's a small world. Small world.
Very cool. Very cool.
Ross, did you have anything else here today?
No, that's it. Just wish Dallas the best of luck Saturday. I watched Fort Lauderdale live last night, and they're a very exciting young side, and they pushed those three forwards, and you obviously saw they gave you some trouble in that first game of the season. Now with Eduardo Sosa, Greenville will have to be on their game, although this is their third game in 8 days on Saturday. So, there's some of those young legs might be a little less bright.
Yeah, no, it's we've said it. They're definitely a different looking team than what we saw the first game of the season. That's just, that first game, was the first game in franchise history for them. So you don't expect a lot of cohesion, a lot of chemistry, things like that. And then, you see them hitting that stride now where they're starting to learn each other and learn those relationships. So definitely a big test, one that we're looking forward to. We're going from playing the second team in the table, the third team in the table, and now I think they're sitting in fourth. So we're getting all the top teams, which is
running the gauntlet, as they say.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Dallas, we wish you continued success, and I root for the Triumph over here in Arizona. I've got the Together We Triumph scarf hanging right on my wall. But before we wrap up, was there anything that we hadn't asked you about today that you wanted to make sure we chatted about?
I don't think so. You guys have flattered me today. You've touched basically every corner of my career, and I think as players, a lot of times we get caught up in the now, and you don't really get to look back on how far you've come to get to here. So it's kind of cool walking down memory lane a little bit, and getting to talk about some of the people who helped me get here. And it's I could do this all day, so I really enjoyed the chat.
Continued success and all the best for the rest of the season.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
And Dallas, it really means a lot for what you just said, because that's exactly what we're about here on Across the Pitch. There's plenty of shows out there that will tell you the tactics or who won and lost different games, but we're really about kind of telling the stories behind the pitch, if you will, not just across and on the pitch, but behind the pitch, and getting to know all the great folks like yourself that are out there working hard and bringing this beautiful game to us. And it's just great to sit down and hear your stories, and we'll have to definitely do it with you again in the future. And we really, really appreciate your time here today.
Yeah, cheers.
Well, thank you guys very much. I do appreciate it, and I love what you guys are doing, because I tell guys all the time, you may remember a few of the statistics and results here and there when it's all said and done. You won't remember them all, but you'll remember the relationships and the stories and the experiences. So that's what this game is. That that's the best part of getting to play this game, and so the fact that you guys are kind of covering it and diving deeper into it is a cool thing.
Well said.
Thanks, Dallas.
You. Appreciate it, Dallas. You have a great one, and hey, good luck in the rest of the season. We'll be following you.
Thank you guys very much. Take care.
Take care.
Cheers.